So good morning everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I'm going to say that again. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and you'll understand why shortly. I'm going to talk about how we manage difficult and challenging times. I'll share some of my story with you, and then I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm not going to do all the work today. A couple of times I'm going to ask you to join in and give me a bit of help, so please be willing. Challenges are a part of life, aren't they? We just think we have everything sorted. We were in fact talking about it at the table before. Change is the only constant in life, but usually we find that the rug gets pulled out from under our feet. And that's reality. What's more important is how we manage ourselves and how we manage what happens next at times like this. Now, I'm sure there are women here who will use all the strategies that I'm going to talk about today, and if you do, I applaud you. And if you don't, then I hope that perhaps some of my words will inspire you. Women are extremely good at offering support to each other. We have a coffee together, we ring each other, we talk, we share things, we listen, we offer guidance. Sometimes not welcome, but we do. And it's one of our strengths. It's one of the things we do extremely well. And in so many ways, women are doing pretty well, aren't they? However, we are still at times, broadly and quite unfairly, I think, described as being overly emotional, inclined to panic, unable to make big decisions. And in movies, we are shown as being unable to cope, hiding under the blanket, eating chocolate, eating too much ice cream, drinking too much, and generally not coping that well. And worse, we turn to the male hero and say, sorry Darren, what are we going to do? Well, my question is, what are we modelling to young women with movies like this? Because it's a part of life that challenges come. We get thrown curveballs, and sometimes it's more than a curveball, sometimes it's a 180-degree roadblock. You've just been told that your husband's leaving you. You've lost your job, one of your children is seriously ill, or that you have a life-threatening illness. So, what are some of the feelings you may be experiencing at a time like this? I'm asking for your participation. Call them out.
Fear.
Fear, yes.
Shock.
Shock, absolutely.
Panic.
Panic, yes, yes.
Anger sometimes.
Anger, yes, absolutely.
Insecurity.
Insecurity, yes.
Helplessness.
Helplessness,
Hurt.
thank you.
Hurt.
Hurt, yes. And there's a couple more I'm going to add in there. Thank you, ladies. Powerlessness and feeling like a victim. Now, these feelings are all very real, and they're a direct result of how we view what's happening. And it's normal to have those feelings, but how helpful are they if they completely overwhelm you at a time like this? At times like this, you may be overdrawn on your emotional reserves, like your phone credit has run out. Your stomach becomes a pit of writhing snakes, injecting fear, negative fear and toxicity into every thought. This is when we have the opportunity to create a perpetual self-renewal of emotional credit, when we have the opportunity to use all of our emotional intelligence to make conscious choices about how we manage ourselves and cope with whatever comes next. And I'm talking about emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence sounds a bit academic, doesn't it? Dry, dusty, not very sexy, but that's not true. I think it's really exciting. If I was to tell you that it helps to build resilience, develop confidence, a sense of self and self-belief, where we learn to know what we want, what we're feeling, and to ask for what we need, where we learn, and where the quality of life overall is greatly improved. Would that sound more exciting?
It is.
So it's deservedly a hot topic at the moment in the workplace, in leadership training especially. But today we're going to be talking about how we manage day to day. So again, it's your turn. What do you understand emotional intelligence to mean? Anybody got any thoughts? And there's no right or wrong answers, yes.
Self-worth.
Self-worth? Yes, knowing your self-worth, absolutely.
Yes. Empathy.
Yes, being able to use empathy effectively, yes.
Understanding your emotions.
Absolutely, understanding your emotions.
Balance.
Having a balance, thank you. So Goleman's definition of emotional intelligence is to recognise, understand and manage your own emotions, and to recognise, understand and influence the emotions of others. This is a graphic that I've created for the workplace, and you can see that self-awareness is the overarching element. From self-awareness, everything else flows. Today we're going to be talking about awareness of emotions and self-regulation of your emotions and your behaviour. I've been in a situation where I had to use all of my emotional intelligence to manage. On the 3rd of August 2017, I found myself sitting in front of a gynaecologist after experiencing some abnormal symptoms. He was very kind, but he didn't mess around. He said, I'm 90% certain this shadow here, as he pointed to the MRI on his screen, is a cervical cancer that's grown up high in the cervical canal, and it's grown outside of the cervical canal. Well, I said, that's a bit shitty. And he agreed with me, it was. This was why it had never shown up on my routine screening. So, he then went on to explain what my options were, and they were limited. He said, we're going to give you a PET scan. He said, if the cancer has spread into your body, then we will give you palliative chemotherapy, and this will be the end of your life. If it hasn't spread into the rest of your body, then we're going to offer you an operation called a pelvic exoneration. Now, I'd not heard the word before, and so I said, what does that mean? And he explained it to me. Now, I'm going to explain it to you as he explained it to me, and I'm going to be very explicit, not to offend, but this is the reality of what happened, and I want to be authentic with you. So, he said, this will mean the removal of your bladder, your ovaries, your uterus, half your large bowel, your rectum, your anus and your vagina. You would have your body reconstructed using your six-pack muscle. I didn't have a six-pack. But that muscle would be taken down inside your body to create a new pelvic floor and to reconstruct the external area where those structures had been removed. You will have two bags. You will have a urostomy bag for urine drainage, and you'll have a colostomy bag for bowel. This was the lucky me option. Pretty overwhelming. Now, that day I'd driven down to Brisbane with a girlfriend. My husband was away on Fraser Island on a fishing trip. And on the way home, I asked her over and over again, what was that word? My mind was unable to process the word exoneration. I couldn't hold it in my mind. I knew what it meant, but I couldn't hold the word. And she would look it up on her phone and say it out loud again. And I'd say, okay. And then about 10 minutes later, I'd say, what was that word again? She also put up with me playing the Eagles extremely loudly, singing loudly and very badly at the top of my voice. I had to hold it together somehow. What a friend. I had to ring my husband on that trip home. Sorry. And tell him my news. When he arrived home the next day, I finally felt able to release some of the emotion I'd been feeling, and we wept together. It would have been very easy to just drop my bundle at this point. I had no idea what path was going to be open to me, whether I would go down that path of being And I was scared I would go down that path of being frozen in fear, unable to cope, take it out on the people around me, be anxious and frightened, emotionally bankrupt. And I was definitely feeling frightened and anxious, let me tell you. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one little bit. So I sat down, I had a big heart-to-heart with myself. I made some very conscious choices that day. The only thing I could control at this time was my own reactions. I would keep busy with my hands and keep my mind occupied with music. Do you know if you're singing you can't worry? It's a great strategy for suspending worry. I decided that if it was my time to die, then I wanted to do it with dignity and courage. And if I was going to have the opportunity to continue to live, then I wanted to face it, what came next, with as much courage as I could muster. Then came the phone call. The good news was I had a cancer that hadn't spread. I was going to be able to have this massive, body-altering, life-saving surgery. So, started a period with lots of trips to Brisbane, scans, bloods, appointments with my new colorectal surgeon. There was much planning to be done. When I was home, I played lots of music. I sang loudly and I did a lot of sewing. So why did I choose to do sewing? Well, we were about 2.5 weeks away from our daughter's wedding. And I didn't know if I would be at the wedding at this point. Then came a phone call from my surgeon's receptionist. My surgeon had planned my surgery for the day after the wedding. What a compassionate man. He said to me, "You can't eat, but you can stay until the speeches and have a glass of champagne." Then I had to hightail it back to my hotel. I was trusted to give myself my own bowel prep, and I had to be at the hospital at 5:30 a.m. for surgery. He said to me, "You won't get much sleep." He was so right. Once again, I made some conscious choices about how I would manage in that week leading up to the wedding. I was determined my upcoming surgery would have as little impact as possible on that week before the wedding and the wedding day. We had our hens day. We had a high tea at the Stanford and we played indoor putt-putt at the Holy Moly. We lied about our scores and we laughed all day. We had our eyebrows done, we had our fingernails done, there were trial hair days, and our daughter and her fiancé joined my husband and myself for a picnic at Mount Nebo, and it was a week full of love and joy. And for me, well, I had another round of appointments. I saw my colorectal surgeon for the 3rd time. I met my urologist, I met my plastic surgeon, I met my pain management specialist, and I met the stomal therapist. What a week. It was a beautiful wedding. What a special day, full of love and joy again. And the next day stayed firmly in the future where it belonged. This image was taken 5 days after the wedding. I'd had 11.5-hour surgery, 3 days in intensive care, and as you can see, I was having an extremely bad hair day. I have a blog. Oh, now you know why I'm so happy to be here. I am really happy to be here, and I am lucky, and I am extremely grateful to the people who performed this incredible surgery on me. I have a blog on my story of recovery, and if you read it, you'll see there were times when I struggled a bit and times when I did well. But overall, I believe my emotional intelligence helped me to get through an incredibly challenging period of my life. Now I'd like to give you some basic strategies on building self-awareness, emotional self-awareness. Now, not every situation will be as confronting as the one that I had to deal with. It was all-consuming. But if you have something bothering you, often your first thing you'll notice is something in your body. You'll notice there's a sensation, you might feel a little bit distressed in the tummy or have tight shoulders. Take notice of those feelings because they're like a red flag saying there's a problem. And then listen to your thoughts. You might have to drill down a little bit to find what it is that's bothering you. When you find it, name it. Allow yourself to notice what the emotion is. Now, don't be the emotion. Don't say, I'm anxious. Say to yourself, I notice I'm feeling anxious, and that will give you some distance from that emotion. Identify all of your options. You often hear people say, I did this because I had no other choice. Well, that's not true. There are always more than two options, and if you write them all down, it helps you to clarify your thoughts and decide on a path of action. I've shared some of my story with you today, and storytelling is a powerful tool. I'd like to finish by offering you all a challenge. You won't need chocolate, but I do hope you'll discuss it with your friends, your peers, and your colleagues. I've talked about the role of emotional intelligence in greatly enhancing quality of life overall and helping me manage an incredibly challenging period of my life. However, there are young women today in our community who will not have the opportunity to develop their emotional intelligence due to their life circumstance and a lack of role models and mentors. The fact is, we are becoming disconnected from our younger women. On International Women's Day this year and every day this year, my challenge to you all is to consciously find ways to be role models to young women. Share your stories of success and failure. Talk about what happened. Talk about how you felt and what you learnt from the experience. Mentor these young women so they become more resilient, see themselves as equal and worthy, and able to make choices in every aspect of their lives.